Welcome back to another edition of Beginner's Guide. I'm a music nerd here. In today's genre, I'm going to be talking about proto-metal, and for anybody who's wanted to get into this genre, I'm going to recommend a few albums for you to get into this genre. So before we get into it, please, if you enjoy the content on this channel and you enjoy this video, hit the like button down below, hit the subscribe button down below, and if you're a return subscriber, hit the notification bell to be alerted for new content. Alright, so here we go. The first album is Black Sabbath's Paranoid, which came out in 1970. Man, I love this album. Their debut album was amazing, incredible, but they really began to hit their stride with Paranoid. So many classics here. The title track, Paranoid, one of the great guitar riffs in metal history. Iron Man, I mean, everybody knows that riff. War Pigs, the way this album starts out with that and that badass like dun 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 dun. Tony Iommi, his guitar work all over this album is incredible. Fairies Wear Boots, Electric Funeral. I mean, there's so many timeless classics on this album. If you are definitely looking to get into proto-metal, this is one of the albums that you have to start with. It pretty much emphasized that Black Sabbath would be a cultural force in rock, with a fan base that has been steady for 50 years now. Alright, the ultimate, Led Zeppelin, with Led Zeppelin 4, aka Zoso, or whatever you want to call it. This is pretty much the most popular Led Zeppelin album ever made. It's personally not my favorite, but it's not hard to see why so many people love this album. It's one of the best selling albums of all time, and it's pretty much the greatest hits album. Everything that you hear in metal, you can trace back to this album. The song Rock and Roll, Misty Mountain Hop, Stairway to Heaven, When the Levee Breaks. There's just Black Dog. The way the album starts with Black Dog, and that incredible guitar riff from Jimmy Page, just pure badassery. This is an incredible album from start to finish. This was sort of the last album before Zeppelin kind of shifted in their career. Jimmy Page had a more cleaner guitar sound. This is really like the last remnants of like classic Zeppelin, dark blues rock, kind of heavy metal-ish tones. After this album, they started to diverge into different genres. So really, this is a glimpse of a band of the peak of its powers. A great album if you're looking to get into proto-metal, one of the great heavy metal albums ever made. Deep Purple's Machine Head, which also came out in 1971. Everybody knows that riff. And even if you don't even listen to metal, you know that riff. But it's more than just that Smoke on the Water song. Machine Head is Deep Purple at their best. The way this album starts with Highway Star, the intensity, the virtuosity of Ritchie Blackmore's guitar, and just, man, what a great way to start this album. There's also cuts such as Maybe I'm a Leo, and of course, everybody knows Smoke on the Water. It's been overplayed to death, but it's one of those songs that, even though it's overplayed, it's still like a classic song that everybody loves. Machine Head, Deep Purple put them in the mainstream. If you look at the heavy metal genre, this is when you can trace back a lot of the metallic riffs to this album, especially on Highway Star and Smoke on the Water. Definitely one of the classic 70s rock albums. Aerosmith's Rocks, which came out in 1976. This to me is one of my favorite rock albums of all time. And if you look at the album title, I mean, it pretty much, the album does what it says. It rocks. Man, just start to finish, an incredible ride. This to me is peak Aerosmith. I know in the 80s and the 90s they got more successful with Janie Got a Gun and Love in an Elevator and that fucking Armageddon song that just, it will never escape me. This to me is peak Aerosmith. Toys in the Attic and Rocks, that is the 1-2 punch of when Aerosmith was at their best and at their most badass. Just the way this album just flows back in the saddle. with that yelp from Steven Tyler, just knows that you're just in for a fucking ride. And then the song Last Child, which is more of a funk rock cut. Last Child is a incredible funky song. So many great songs here. Looking to Promise, Rats in the Cellar, Sick as a Dog. Some of Aerosmith's best work. To me, Rocks is an album that contains a lot of what heavy metal would come to be in the next few years. The intensity of it and just the pure bombast of it. You know, they were high on cocaine and just doing whatever the hell they wanted, just like most 70s musicians were. I still listen to it every now and then, and it's good as I heard it the first time, so check it out. The last album I'm going to be talking about is King Crimson's first album, In the Court of the Crimson King. Now, yes, you may debate this is progressive rock. This album isn't really that metal, but if you look at the song 21st Century Schizoid Man, it does contain a lot of metal elements. So in a sense, this album kind of predicted what metal would come to be. And yes, this is King Crimson's at their best. I think here, you know, Robert Fripp's guitar work, I think it just all works here. A lot of the kind of the bombast and the topics that you would discover on later metal albums, talking about sci-fi, talking about horror. King Crimson touches a bit about that on here, you know, talking about madness, talking about destruction. It's a great album to check out. Those are 5 albums that, if you're looking to get into proto-metal, I highly recommend you check it out. I do other beginner's guides. YouTube recommends these other 2 videos. Done one on post-punk, East Coast hip-hop, and more. And yeah, if you have a suggestion for beginner's guides that you want me to tackle, leave in the comments below. And also, tell me other proto-metal albums that you think you would recommend. Anyways, till next time, peace.